In this video essay, I will be going over how Norman Rockwell changed the face and shape of the Saturday Evening Post. The Saturday Evening Post is an iconic American magazine which started all the way back in 1821 on August 18th. The Post is very well known for its gorgeous cover art, but little know that in the beginning the Post had no cover art at all, as seen in this very first issue. It wasn't until 1899 the Post finally came out with their first color cover. This cover was distributed in Philadelphia and made way for many more illustrations. In my research upon first glance, I noticed there was a common theme: women with hats. I thought it was interesting how women were depicted in the earlier times of this magazine during World War I era. Fast forward to World War II, and we have a completely different image. This image by Norman Rockwell is Rosie the Riveter, as many know. This image was used as propaganda and was used to gather up war bonds for the war effort. This specific cover was used as a Memorial Day special. This cover was published a few months later in the fall. It showcased how women picked up the slack back at home during the wartime. These images are a great example of how war was more emphasized during the World War II era compared to World War I, thanks to Rockwell. In 1918, Norman Rockwell was in the Navy for a brief period of time. He served the Charleston Naval Shipyard. He was specifically assigned here because of his lack of strength. Since he was still illustrating covers for the Saturday Evening Post, he needed to get special permission to keep that job while he was under duty. One stipulation was in place. Rockwell had to create covers that involved the Navy. That is how this 1919 cover came about. Rockwell loved to create portraits in his downtime of his fellow sailors. In this cover, we see two sailors, one looking down at his colleague and one looking out towards the sea. The one looking towards the sea is holding a picture of his loved one back home. Rockwell did this to portray sailor life and what they dealt with day to day, missing their loved ones. Rockwell also changed the face of the Saturday Evening Post by introducing something that had never been done before: a recurring character named Willie Gillis. There is a total of 11 Willie Gillis covers for the Saturday Evening Post. These covers followed along Gillis's life and his time as a Navy sailor. Rockwell wanted to represent the average Joe of the Navy sailor. As you can see in the left image, Gillis is very short compared to the rest of his colleagues. In the image on the right, you can kind of see how he's smirking a smile that isn't very like the rest of the portraits. And lastly, in the middle, we see his afterlife from the Navy. In this cover, Willie is going to college and getting ready for his fall semester. Throughout the years of World War II, Rockwell made many covers supporting war bonds. This image is an example of that, as the soldier is seen holding a war bond. This put the war effort at the forefront of the magazine. On January 6, 1941, Roosevelt gave a speech about the 4 freedoms. Rockwell then would go on to paint oil paintings of these 4 freedoms. They were illustrated in the same order that they were given in the speech and featured in a Saturday Evening Post article. First was freedom of speech, then freedom of worship, freedom from want, and lastly, freedom from fear. Just like the Rosie the Riveter poster, these images were used to promote war bonds. They were also used to instill American values in the public and hopefully encourage them to enlist. To end, I thought I would bring up this very interesting fact. As I was flipping through many covers of Rockwell from the Saturday Evening Post, I noticed there was lots of dogs, so I decided to look this up. Rockwell was an avid dog lover, and he loved including them in his covers as he thought it was a great way to tell a story.